listening to The Cooler Ring, a podcast made for manufacturing marketers. Here are Carmen Perry and Jeff White.
Welcome to The Cooler Ring, a podcast for manufacturing marketers brought to you by Cooler Partners. My name is Jeff White, and joining me today is Carmen Perry. Carmen, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, and you know, Jeff, I've been looking forward to today's show.
I am too.
Because I just feel like marketers these days feel and maybe just manufacturing organizations overall, not just in the marketing department, are awash with data.
Yeah.
And
lousy with it.
Indeed. Yeah. And they're getting more and more of it every day. I've likened this, I think, in the past to the classic "I Love Lucy" scene where she can't eat fast enough, and the picture with candy bonbons or whatever keep coming.
Yeah.
So it's like they're collecting more and more data every day, and they're buried under it, and they have a sneaking suspicion that there's gold in those hills,
but they're not entirely sure what to do with it.
Yeah,
or they just have so much. And we're not data scientists.
Or just where to start, or what have you.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm excited for today's show. I think it's going to be an interesting kind of exploration of data in the manufacturing enterprise, and really how to begin to wrap your arms around the potential.
Yeah, and I like that you use the "I Love Lucy" one reference, because I've also heard of it as the elevator scene from The Shining, and that it's a very different thing.
Yeah.
So, yep, bonbons. So, and we're also really glad to be welcoming back a previous guest of the Cooler Ring. Ryan Knox is the co-founder of Bridge Digital, and we're glad to have you here today, Ryan. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Ryan, why don't you introduce our listeners to Bridge Digital? I know that it's a fairly new venture for you, so let's kind of get that elevator pitch, if we could.
It's kind of cool to, like you guys said, go full circle, because you guys welcomed me on when I was still at FlexFab, and we were talking about how we were trying to use data and machine learning and things like that to improve efficiency at FlexFab. And now, I guess we're a couple years later, and I've started Bridge Digital. It's a separate company, but it was from all those learnings. And I bet if we went back and we listened to that recording, you could kind of see the foundation of Bridge Digital from in our conversation. But the whole idea is exactly what you guys are talking about. How can we utilize our data and utilize technologies like artificial intelligence and machine learning to help improve operational efficiency? And so that's the idea.
Now, when we speak about operational efficiency, that doesn't always, whet the appetite of marketers, but I guess how does that come into life on the revenue side of the house? Are we using data to better understand customers? Are we just making better marketing decisions through the visualization of the data that we have, gleaning insights from it? I guess talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think a couple different things. Number one, marketers typically aren't data scientists, but if you're a good marketer, typically you have potentially more experience than some of the other areas of your business at trying to improve efficiency, trying to utilize data. We should be doing things like digital marketing, and some of these things effectively to improve the efficiency of our campaigns, for example. And so in some cases, it's what you were talking about of how can we be better marketers internally in just doing our day-to-day job. And that's absolutely something we focus on at Bridge Digital. But it's also, in part, I think a good marketer, it's not only the external customer, it's the internal customer as well. And I had somebody tell me a few months back that marketers are one of the best people for helping with data science projects, because in theory, we should be pretty decent at communicating things effectively, especially through data. And so if we can not only help ourselves with our day-to-day job, but if we can also go out into, whether it be the HR department, there's a lot of HR departments right now. They're collecting a huge amount of new data. They're trying to figure out why people are leaving. They're trying to figure out why people won't come on board. And marketers should have a good skill set to be able to help them with items like that. So I think it's the internal marketing and the external marketing are very critical for being an effective marketer.
I think it's interesting because you mentioned two core departments, that exist in manufacturing organizations. There, you've got HR, you've got marketing, and we're talking about data. And I noticed that you left one out, and it's the one that is often most responsible for collecting data, and that's IT. How come they're not in there?
Well, IT is facing really difficult challenges right now. So um, marketers have been pretty good at being one of the sources of the problem of siloed data. And so, like, marketers are probably one of the least checked departments in most manufacturing for where are we capturing all this data, what are we using, what type of technologies are we using. We do a lot more than, for example, HR or production or quality. Those people typically are staying within their own systems. So we're just kind of by nature kind of off by ourselves. Um, and a lot of times IT allow us to kind of uh, hey, that's just the creative the creative people over there. That's just the marketing team. Just let's let them be. Our ERP system isn't built for helping them, so let's just let them do whatever they want, type of thing. And so I think IT is being put into a difficult position right now because over the years, individual departments, their needs uh, have gotten larger than what the existing systems most IT departments know well, like an ERP system. And so what happens is ERP system providers are trying to build out more and more complexity into their tools, and typically what's happening is the ERP system tools are getting very kind of shallow in the capabilities of some of these features. And then what's happening is IT is just saying, well, we'd love to help, but the tool that we know about doesn't meet your needs, and so just go do whatever you want. And so what's happening is across the board, more and more departments, including marketing, are realizing that the internal systems and software that IT is comfortable with just don't meet their needs. And so what's happening is we're starting to collect more and more data in more and more systems. I have a customer that they did an internal audit, and I think they had like 68 different systems that they were either were using collecting data or had at one point collected data in. And so think about that as an IT person. They're typically not data scientists. They're typically not machine learning engineers. Sometimes they're not even software engineers. And here they are, and they have a mess on their hands with way too much data, way too many systems, and now we're asking them to create simple dashboards. So that's the challenge IT is facing today.
It's interesting. I mean, was at one point in the enterprise, basically, if it involved a computer, uh, you needed to deal with IT.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, of course, everything's technology's everywhere, and
Yeah.
IT is, to your point, they're not data scientists. Why should they be assigned this task? That's in some ways they've been asked to do a lot of things that are kind of outside of that core skill
Yeah.
set.
Yeah. And I mean, you've mentioned dashboards there. A dashboard shouldn't just communicate the data, it should provide some insight into it. And generally speaking, you're not going to get that, insight, the BI intelligence, from IT.
A- And that's the challenge. We're seeing the same story with all the companies, including the company I worked for and all the companies I'm working with. Basically, all of them have the same story. What we just said, where all these systems, all these data have been created, they don't talk to one another, and now all of a sudden, leadership team is coming to IT and they're saying, "Hey, how can we make all these systems talk to one another? How can you give me a one pager that tells me all about our entire business?" And what does IT say? Okay, let me go talk to the vendors I've always worked with. So who do they go to? They go to their ERP supplier and they go to Microsoft. The ERP supplier, they're like, yeah, we could definitely help you. It'd be really expensive. And then Microsoft goes, actually, you know how you migrated over to Office 365 recently? Yeah, I know. Oh, actually, you're already paying for Power BI. It's this really awesome tool that's almost free to you guys. It's like $8, and you guys just totally have access to it. And they're like, you're kidding me. It's not going to cost us anything, and I'm going to be able to do everything my CEO asked me to do. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. Awesome. And so then everyone comes together and 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 they're like, okay, I got a solution, CEO. It's not going to cost us anything, and we're going to give you everything. And then what do? They come together and they realize all their data is siloed. They don't have any clue how to get it to Power BI. They start uploading CSV files. They start trying to create random API connections. They get uncomfortable connecting their ERP system data to it. They try to ask the data guy in the corner of IT, you could probably do this, right? And for a little bit, he or she thinks, yeah, I could probably do this. They create a dashboard, and then after a week it breaks. Why? Because they're not data scientists. They don't know dimensional modeling. They don't know how to organize these systems in a way where they work together. And so what we found over and over and over again is that same story where you have these awesome tools available to us, but nobody knows how to use them. And IT is being put in a really, really difficult position.
So, you know, it's, people should really be mindful of the fact that if something sounds too good to be true, we can get everything we want, and it's going to cost us nothing. It's
Yeah.
probably
Five
probably
years
is.
ago, they said it was Dynamics. 5 years before that, they said they could probably do it with SharePoint.
Yeah,
And the
exactly
fact of the
right.
matter is, they may all be there, but they're not easy to use, and they're probably not going to give you what you want.
But Power BI really is really cool. I mean, I picked on Power BI just because it's like the popular one, and almost everyone has access to it for next to nothing. But it's just an example of where companies have to start leaning on people. Like at my company, there was even a point in time where the marketing team was working on these things instead of IT, because the companies are searching for people that are data focused. And they're like, hey, you can probably create a dashboard, right? And so that was part of the reason why we created Bridge Digital, because we knew like there was this huge need. We kept hearing the same story over and over, and very few people have the resources to build out like 3 or 4 full-time employee teams of data scientists, software engineers, and machine learning engineers to be able to build the tools that the leadership team really wants. And so that's kind of the background to why we ended up deciding to start Bridge Digital.
Right. I don't know if this is a foolish question or not, so I'm going to ask it anyway. I was kind of wondering, like, in the kind of ecosystem of the manufacturing world that you interact with, and how when they're looking for help in this area, to what extent are they looking for quick wins, insights to power immediate decision making, versus to what extent are they thinking about it through the lens of a long term uh, system to support their business and to support better decision making? What's the balance there, the motivations?
That's a really good question. I think it's an important question, because in a perfect world, you want to say, oh yeah, most leadership teams are really realistic about, new things, evolving into more data, more AI, more machine learning. It's going to take time. And I'm sure there are leadership teams that do feel that way. What we found is that what's more important is not necessarily the leadership's willingness um, to have patience. But what's been more important from our perspective is is the internal team and getting that quick win. Because if you think about it, guys, like if you go and you talk to a manufacturing company and you go in and you say, hey, we're going to have some type of major software evolution that's going to change the way you do your job. What is the first thing people think about and the experience they have related to that?
I'm getting laid off.
Well, well, maybe, but I think most people probably think about ERP.
Yeah.
ERP, uh, um, some type of ERP
implementation gone wrong. Like they got
implementation, yeah, migration. We use these types of language, and there's not one single person. I'll tell you, my stepmom, she's retired now, but 6 or 9 months ago, she was planning her retirement, and her boss came to her and said, "Hey, we're planning a new system implementation, migration, whatever the right terms were for it." And she said, "If you guys are going to do that, I want to be a good team player, but we literally just finished this other system where I just learned it. If you guys are going to do that, I'm just going to retire early because I just can't possibly take learning another system." And like that's how people feel. They when you come in, you say, "Hey, here's this new software." It's has this really negative connotation. It almost never is, "Oh, you're going to be able to help me do my job better?" So regardless of if you're a marketer, and I think marketers are a little bit more open-minded to this, with marketing automation tools that are out there. But when you look outside of marketing, that's the connotation that comes with the software implementation. And so when you talk about quick wins, I think it's absolutely essential. And if you go back to like, Cotter has his 8 steps, for change and whatnot. How can you create a sense of urgency? How can you kind of enlist this volunteer army? Acceleration, short-term wins. How can you do this? Like the reason for that is because like if you can get all the people doing the work using the systems on board excited and start showing them results that actually help them do their job better, that's how you're going to win. And so I would just say, to answer your question, does the leadership team matter? Yes, it's very important that your leadership team is aligned that, hey, we're not going to maybe figure this out on the first go, but we got to start moving in this direction because this is an essential part of our future, and remaining competitive. But at the end of the day, on the implementation, I think it's absolutely critical to get people on board and help make it as easy of a process as possible.
Are your digital marketing efforts bringing in too many junk leads? Stop wasting time and distracting your sales team. Account based marketing can help give your marketing strategy the laser focus on qualified buyers that you need to increase your pipeline velocity, close more deals, and grow your business faster. We've created a sample manufacturing ABM plan to help you get started. Download the sample manufacturing ABM plan at bit.ly/sampleabm. That's bit.ly/sampleabm.
I mean, in that way, it's it's a lot like a forced CRM implementation with the sales team. If you don't have internal champions for that, if you don't have people excited about it, if they're not seeing the potential benefits, they're never going to get on board, and you're just going to have a very expensive piece of software and a lot of people who are still doing things in their head or Excel.
What a great example. I should have thought about that instead of the ERP. Yeah, I mean that's probably worse, right? I mean, for most people trying to adopt Salesforce, it's probably it's probably worse for some teams. I've tried to implement Salesforce at 2 different companies, and I ended up implementing other CRM tools that are a little more simple. But it's man, when you're going out and you're asking people change what you're doing, and you better have a good reason for it, and you better have them on board. And how do you get them on board? If you make their life better in some way. And so I think that's a critical thing that we don't think about enough is forget about leadership team. You need their support to get the funding, but once you get past that step, how can we make sure this implementation goes right by getting as many early adopters as possible?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't help either that, you talked a bit about this a moment ago, but you just want to create a simple dashboard that gives the right kind of data. It doesn't help that so many of these pieces of software are incredibly complicated to use, or incredibly horrendous user interfaces. I'm talking about you, Salesforce. Like
Hopefully they're not a sponsor.
Mark, if you want to call us, we're happy to help. We'll make it better. But it really does kind of make things even more complex for people to adopt something when they don't necessarily understand how to use it. It's
Yeah,
not
I've
intuitive.
rarely encountered a sales organization and a manufacturer that has Salesforce that has a universal adoption of it within their sales team and actually has compliance
Yeah.
that the sales organization is using it. I mean, it never
Well, and
happens.
you'll hear of sales managers who love it because of the reports they can run and the things they
Oh,
can do
sure.
with it. But you never really hear about salespeople just going, "I love Salesforce." You know?
Yeah,
Exactly right.
They
exactly.
become ambassadors.
Well, let's not beat them up
No.
too much because that's not the part of the show.
No.
But I mean, it is fun. I mean, uh, but I was curious. You've mentioned this a number of times through the kind of almost the words after data, insight, etc. are AI, machine learning, kind of the promise of that. And that is one area that I think manufacturers have, especially on the operations side, have taken advantage of that in terms of machine health, understanding in the factory, etc. Um, although it's not widespread, I guess sometimes it can seem, I think, to marketers that, um, uh, especially operating in these very, kind of B2B manufacturing niche categories, that there's maybe the promise of AI is more hype than real.
More artificial than intelligence.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But Ryan, set me straight. Like, do I have that wrong?
Well, I think people put the term AI on just like on so much stuff. For example, we'll take something which is like marketing automation technology, and we'll call it AI. And realistically, like how much AI is being built into automating, I don't know, emails or something like that is pretty minimal. But there's actually some pretty cool stuff out there. Like for example, this year I adopted uh, some natural language processing technology that helps write my marketing content. I use a tool. This is, I don't get anything from this plug, I guess. Copy.ai is what I've used, and you can use that to write marketing copy. But that's interesting to me. Areas where you're actually getting some type of benefit from it, like for example, with that copy.ai stuff, you can actually get much more keyword enrich content. You can drive additional insights that you just aren't going to think about, and you can automate it with that process. I also like the idea of using AI and machine learning. The place where I don't think most marketers are using it is taking their campaign information, and using machine learning in a way where we can try to drive insights about, for example, when I'm trying to get this type of conversion, what in this region, what is the most efficient use of my advertising dollars? We're doing that for an HR recruiting firm right now, where their whole thing is um, their demand is way outpacing the available supply in the market. They're doing something where it's called RPO, and in RPO you're hiring high volume for retail, manufacturing, places like this. And so it's a very, very competitive field right now. So they have a lot of great data that they've captured in their let's call it a CRM over the years. They also have a lot of great data in places like, for example, Indeed. Well, most marketers were not taking all of this data. What does Indeed say here? We're looking at things like cost per click. We're looking at things like cost per application in this situation, and we're driving entire campaigns based on some of these insights, conversion rates, click rates, so on and so forth. Well, we can go significantly deeper with machine learning, where we can drive insights about, well, what's the most likely um, what's the most likely result if I use my dollars this way or that way. And so what we can do is we can become significantly more efficient. When a marketing team, some of the marketers are listening, are very well connected with the sales team. They might even be managing the CRM tool. Um, if you can go into your CRM tool and understand the sales funnel better, you might be able to go in right now. And I would imagine there's a lot of people listening that they couldn't do something simple like try to figure out where the friction points are in their sales funnel. Okay, so first you need to be able to do that. What's taking too long, what needs to be improved, those types of things. That's easy. But when you want to get into an actual insight, like, hey, if we improve this part of the sales funnel process by X%, it increases our likelihood of conversion by Y%. And when you get to that level of insight, now as a marketer, you can focus in on things that matter. So let's say, for example, maybe we're finding that maybe when you dig into the data, you find that a specific region is responding poorly to the way a specific proposal is being presented, for example. But you can see in other regions, it's being responded to differently. Well, maybe that has to do with the way the person is handling it. Maybe that has to do with that region and how, just kind of culture differences. And how can I take that information and maybe, it could be as simple as, hey, if we attached a $25 gift card, I don't know, I'm just making something up. If we attached a $25 gift card to this region when people get to this stage of the funnel, it's going to increase not only the success of that part of the funnel, but it's also going to increase the conversion rate significantly. So that's that kind of stuff. I think marketers have a high level statistical understanding. Good marketers have a high level statistical understanding of their spend, of their sales efficiency, things like this. But diving in deeper in a way when you have a lot of data in a way that only machine learning can do, that's where we're missing it in sales and marketing.
I thank you for that and proving me wrong on. No, it's true. I think that was fantastic insight, and I think it gets people kind of gets the cogs turning. I'm curious because, of course, as you come into an organization and begin to help them, attack these challenges, I'm pretty sure, given a bit of the knowledge differential that you would have coming in, that there's some stuff that you can pretty much kind of know that you're going to find, like almost before you start looking, you're going to find it. I'm curious, what have been the biggest surprises in your work thus far? What have you encountered where you're like, I just didn't see that coming?
So from the highest level, obviously I can't I can't say any specific names, but from a
Understood.
highest level, you guys remember, growing up, you watch these like hero movies and you watched, what I don't know, whatever the government was doing or what these special ops or these heroes are doing, you're like, oh my gosh, or you look at these businesses and you're like, oh my gosh, they're amazing. Like I can't even fathom how advanced and just amazing they are. Um, and then you get into the real world and you start like noodling around a little bit and you realize like everyone is really behind almost across the board when it comes to just adopting pretty simple technologies. I always like to go back to the example of one of my friends started a really cool tech company that he took to Google, and Google was an early investor in. And when he sat down and he talked with the folks at Google, they said, man, we really need this because we are doing a crap job of utilizing our data. At Google, Google is doing a crap job.
Oh no.
Uh, and I have another example in the automotive industry, a large automotive OEM, where we sat down with them and hey, we're using 30 people here, where really machine learning could basically automate automate all of that. And so, I mean, I have examples of sitting down with large companies and they don't have any visibility right now into their supply chain. I mean, that's probably been if you want a very specific example. Unfortunately, it's outside of sales and marketing. I would say that's because realistically, like marketers for the most part are pretty data driven. At least you should be. If you're not, it's almost impossible to be a digital marketer and not be data driven. And so my biggest surprise has not been in the marketing area. It's been in everywhere else operationally. Just the lack of visibility and understanding of of what's going on when our materials are going to arrive, um, how much it costs to make things, insights into that stuff. It's lacking almost across the board at every company I meet with.
I there's something a bit liberating for the listeners to at least. Well, when you say everybody thinks they're behind or everybody's behind, well,
Yeah.
everybody can't be behind, or maybe just the definition of what is ahead maybe needs to be a bit recalibrated.
Yeah.
And folks maybe ought to feel not as intimidated about getting started because, frankly, nobody has it cracked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you can simplify, what I've learned is that if you can simplify things, people hide in complexity, and so if you can simplify things down at your company, and once again, I know we're focused on marketing here in this podcast, but I'm just going off my own experience. I like to go outside of marketing when I was, in that role, and I like to try to help other areas, because at the end of the day, marketing is trying to grow and improve the business, and so you should be trying to help your internal customers just as much as your external, in my opinion. But when you go and you sit down with people, and you want to try to understand what's going on and how you can help, try to bring things back. If I could make any recommendation of what's helped me, try to bring things back to the lowest common denominator, and just something as simple as, hey, do we know how much that actually costs to make that thing right there? Could we tell? Could you tell me how much that costs? That's a good place to start. Or, hey, those materials, you know, do we have visibility into, we're relying on those materials being here. Do we know how much material we have available, and when it's going to arrive, and what are we counting on? Like, think about your business. What are you counting on? And try to kind of work from the lowest common denominator up. And what you'll probably find is if the person allows you to have a good conversation and not get too deep into the weeds, because the weeds is where they'll lose you. You'll end up learning and finding opportunities to improve the business.
I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to cap off this episode, I think. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to have you on the show again.
Yeah, and all the
Thank
best
you, guys.
with Bridge Digital too. Hope it goes really well.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, it was great talking to you.
Thanks for listening to The Cooler Ring with Carmen Perry and Jeff White. Don't miss a single manufacturing marketing insight. Subscribe now at KulaPartners.com/The Cooler Ring. That's KULAPartners.com/The Cooler Ring.